Welcome to Magnet Marketers, our weekly live show where we break down the head, heart, and hand approach to building sustainable growth in your business. During each episode, we share actual client marketing best practice examples, strategies, and tactics that will help you generate real results. Our belief? A magnet always works better than being a bullhorn to attract, retain, and build your brand. Ready to dive into this week's Relationship Marketing Training Tuesday? Well, let's get started. Here's your host, Mike Gingerich and Jessika Phillips.
It's just me.
Mike, surprise! I just didn't do that. I'm like all excited, pumped up. I was so excited I couldn't even bring myself on screen. It was just take over the place. But hey, everyone! Hopefully you are excited as well for this week Training Tuesday Live for Magnet Marketers, where our goal is always to help you become a magnet with your marketing versus being a bullhorn. And today we're diving in to how to leverage live streaming in your business. And Mike's clearly excited as well. So let us know if you are and where you're watching in from. But before we introduce our special friend, guest, Christian Karasiewicz, just a quick hello, if we've not met before. My name is Jessika Phillips with Now Marketing Group in the Relationship Marketing System. And my awesome has great moves, a co-host, Mike Gingerich. A little bit more about him, but Mike lives to add value to people's lives in uncommon ways, such as running a marathon in Iraq to raise funds to rebuild homes for displaced Iraqis. He loves to explore through travel, is a fitness nerd, and tries to leave lots of smiles behind wherever he goes, even when he's stranded on his bike before he gets into the show. How's it going, Mike?
I'm doing well. I am glad to be here because, yes, I was stranded earlier today and had to do some maneuvering to get myself back to where I was supposed to be in time. But here we are. And looking forward to today. Always good to talk about live when we're doing live, and especially excited because we get to bring a old friend on who we've known for many years. So without further ado, let me give you a little background. Christian Karasiewicz is the content marketing manager now for StreamYard and a seasoned seasonal marketing professional for B2B, B2C businesses. He's also the founder of Social Chefs, which is one of the longest running premier sources for social media training on the web. And he's host of the live show and podcast, Launch Your Live. So welcome, Christian. Come on in.
How we doing?
Yay!
Hey.
You need some sound effects.
I know I do. I come with my own sound effects built in sometimes.
All
so.
good. All good.
Yes.
It's so good to see you all again, by the way. It's been a little while.
Words right out of my mouth. Like,
yes.
Every time, I'm so glad, first of all of us met at Social Media Marketing World. And one of my fondest memories is all of us had some time. I think it was like during a lunch or breakout session time where we're like, you know what? We need to go to La Jolla.
Let's go.
Check out the seals. And I was like, seals? What are you talking about? And you're like, there's this place where it just has all these seals that just kind of just there on the beach, and you can go jump down and go explore them. And that's exactly what we did. And it was amazing.
It was. And I think actually, I can't remember if it was you, Jessica, or I know Mike, you and I did. We went to Balboa Park.
Yep,
I think we did a hula hoop challenge, I think, at the time.
Yeah.
Hula hoops. Yes.
Yeah. There's probably a video maybe somewhere of that.
All right.
Yes, I have lots of those. And the
it's probably the last time I was hula hooping, I don't know. So, but yeah.
No, it was good. So we could have live streamed it, right? Like
we could have actually, yes.
We do have those videos on my phone. I'll have to send it to you guys after, maybe even put it in the chat. But it was good times with good people. And it's a lot when people see those videos and they get a sense of kind of who you are, right? And who we are. And that's the beauty, I think, of video and the sense of using it for your brand. And I know you've embraced it so much, as we mentioned and alluded to in your intro and your bio, that you've had one of the longest running live streaming shows that's around. And so you've really embraced live video from jump. And now you're working with StreamYard. So we really want to kind of pick your brain. You have a wealth of information, one of the smartest people I know, and want to find out what kinds of things should brands know on how they can leverage live streaming for their business. So, what have you found so far is one of the big takeaways with that?
I gotta say this. I mean, the one thing you definitely have to do as anyone who wants to get into live streaming is you need to know what your why is. So, like, why are you making all these live streams?
Yeah.
And you also need to look at your analytics. And I'm going to talk analytics at the beginning because a lot of times people will just, it's great hitting that go live button. That's the hardest thing to do, right? Step one, you've hit that go live button. You're finally like over the first hurdle, and then you're going to stream. And then it's like, well, how often do I stream? What do I stream about? Is that actually working? Is it not?
Okay.
Streams where they stream for like 8 to 10 hours a day, and I'm like, that's awesome, but I'm like, you don't have any viewers. Like, okay, we need to adjust the strategy, right? We need to, like, maybe it's pointing the wrong direction. Maybe we need to mix some of that up. Maybe spend 1 hour streaming and then a few hours making pre-recorded content. So definitely we'll say starting with your why and then making sure you're looking at your data is super, super, super important. But also, when I talk about analytics, and this as well, it doesn't matter how many people tune into the live. You also are going to have people that are going to watch the replay as well. So don't get discouraged if your live numbers are down, if you're actually seeing people watch the replay. So
that's good. Yeah, I think definitely some people overlook. We just look at, I had X amount on live today. However, taking maybe a 30-day view back and saying, okay, since that live, 30 days past that, how many people have seen that? Oh, that can be interesting.
It can, yes. But the thing is, you have to look at, like, if you're doing them live, you have to just look at the, analytics and see, what's working, and you have to put in the actual work. It's not just about, hey, I went live, check the box, move on. Doesn't work.
Yeah. I love that. First of all, I love Eddie. Yes, spot on. Math never lies. And Christian, you just unpacked so much right out of the gate. This is what I'm talking about, people. Christian has a wealth of information, and trust me, you're going to want to type the word recap in the comments here, because you will get sent all of the replay and an extension of what Christian has to share right into your inbox. But you said a lot here right at the beginning. You said, first, the reason for live streaming, we already kind of approached that. Like it brings you closer to your community. It allows you to build relationships. It makes brands more relatable, all of those things, right?
Yeah.
But you said at the very, very beginning, like, you have to know your why first of going live, and then be willing to push the button. Like, those are the first two steps. And then you mentioned the analytics on, then once you go, don't just like set it and forget it or get discouraged if people aren't joining live. Like, look at your numbers for feedback, feedback to know what's working, what's not. But kind of even bringing it back to that why, the very beginning that you mentioned.
Know your why.
What could that look like for brands, and what have you seen with StreamYard on different ways of people approaching live? Because we're doing like a show like this, conversational, but what could that look like in different use cases?
And that's a great question. Mike, you're going to say something?
No, I love that what Jessika was talking about, the framing that. I want people to get that. Know your why. Isn't that Simon Sinek who popularizes that phrase, I think. But I think that's so relevant. And so now you're going to kind of dive into some whys that you've seen and
I like to say, like, for what purpose? Like, for what purpose, right? Like, right? Yeah.
So I'd say this. I mean, I think the first thing is you have to kind of look at what you're going to be making. So, we're talking about a conversational show here. Like, this works great for a live stream. If you're going to do a tutorial, you also have to look at, like, well, what's the long-term like value there? It's easy to do a live stream that is a tutorial walking somebody through something. However, you also have to think long-term and say, well, okay, are people actually going to go to YouTube, and are they actually going to search for this kind of tutorial? Because that might work better as pre-recorded content. Even though it's harder, you have to record it, you have to stitch it together, you have to, upload it, all that sort of stuff, and optimize it. There are a lot of people that they try to take that shortcut of, hey, let me make my tutorials all live streams. And it's like, well, yeah, but they kind of fit in a different bucket. They need to be pre-recorded.
Okay.
Having this kind of chat, like this would be something that people may want to go back and watch that live stream of, but they're not necessarily searching for it. So, you do need to like look at the format. But you also need to look at, what the content is you're going to be producing, what's it going to work best as.
Love that. Yeah. So, I mean, just the whole pre-recorded area. I mean, when people talk about live, they think just live. But and I mean, maybe I can just even say how easy it is with StreamYard, because you kind of allow some of those tools right within that. I mean, it's not a StreamYard promotion, but this isn't
Right.
you speaking, this is me speaking. That's a nice tool to have within there that I can pre-record within StreamYard.
Yeah. Yeah. You can actually do a lot of different things. You can pre-record a video. So for example, let's just say you weren't able to make the show this week. We could pre-record this episode and then we could release it as a pre-recorded live stream where we're not actually there. The public is still getting, your content. And at the same time, then what you could do is you could this gives you an opportunity to go into the comments and engage with your viewers. For example, if you have a really active chat, it can be really hard to keep up with that during a live stream. So pre-recorded lives, that's one option. I would say use those sparingly. That's one of the things where I say, put that in your back pocket for the times when you're not going to be there. Jessika, I'll give you a show example. For example, Social Chatter. One thing Sarah and I have done is, and Sarah's my co-host, by the way, for those of you watching, we basically have, what was that?
I said she's great.
What we have done is we've said, you know what? Hey, instead of trying to find a guest every single week, we're going to do 3 weeks where we have a guest and then 1 week where it's just us pre-recording something. So then this allows us flexibility to not feel like, oh, I'm always in my business, having to work on my business. I'm able to actually do it and then go outside and do other things to kind of give you that mental break so you don't get burnout, so you don't feel like you're always on the hamster wheel having to go, and just keep things moving along. So pre-recorded content, great way to do that. For example, yeah.
No, I was just gonna spot on with that. I was gonna give another example of where pre-recorded works well. So for example, well, first, I love everything that you've shared. I did put a blog in here that we've wrote, because I feel like you're right, aligned with synergistically with what we believe at Now Marketing Group on for what purpose are you creating it, knowing the platform, because you had mentioned if it's on YouTube, are people going to search for it and want that kind of show if they're watching it back later, or are they going to want a live show? But if you're pre-recording it, thinking about using it in, like you said, sparingly, if you're promoting it as a live. So one of the things that we've done when we've promoted a live stream that's been pre-recorded has been almost as thinking of it as a release. And I know you both have been part of this. So we've done a predictions release or a collaboration of sorts where we're releasing it, and we've had many people participate, and we've given them a heads up on hey, here's the date and time that we're releasing it. So people still show up as part of the live. They have knowledge way ahead of time that it's a live release, but it's not like we're promoting as we're live. They're going to answer your questions on the show live, but in the comments, right? Those have been really successful too. So think of things that you can pre-record and do as even an announcement where you're announcing it live, or you wanting people to show up almost by appointment to view something with you. I know Facebook used to have the watch party kind of thing. And that's really a good use case for getting people to show up and pre-record it.
Definitely. And I want to make sure I clarify something. There's basically, I'd almost give you 3 examples. So we're talking live streaming. I'd look at it 3 types of content you can create. So the first one's going to be completely pre-recorded, meaning if I'm I'll say it's a tutorial or something like that, because that's typically what most people are, used to. So a tutorial would be, I record, and you can do all this in StreamYard. You can record your intro, for example, do a screen recording, cut back to another intro, and you can take all those pieces, stitch them together as a final video, and then you could upload that over to, say, YouTube or whatever social media platform. That would be straight up pre-recorded content. The second thing would be, we talked about the interview like we're doing right now. We would do a pre-recorded live stream where you're not there. For example, say Jessica's putting on social media week Lima, for example. I think that's coming up, right? And so she might say, hey, you know what? I still want to put this out, but I'm not going to be there. She could pre-record all that, keep the schedule, and then go back and answer questions and things like that while the live is happening or after the fact. And then the third would be a straight up live stream like we're doing right now, where we're going live, we're talking to people, people are able to interact with us live right now. And then after the live, people may go back and, you may get people commenting and whatnot if they're going to watch the replay, or it may be your opportunity to then go back afterwards and address all the questions that came in. That, for example, Eddie had something here about, talking about how many live views he got. George said something about pre-recordeds work for him because he makes tutorials. being able to go back and address those comments afterwards. So it's like 3 different types of content. And then there's actually a bonus one, which is if you are somebody who wants to do pre-record, like we could pre-record a video and we could actually combine that with a live stream, and we could start the live stream and put in pre-recorded video that we've already made, put in the live aspect, and then have full-on interaction with our viewers, and they're actually learning something. And it's almost like we have to like diagram this up or draw a diagram, because it's
great. Like that's what we do on the other Now show. So we have a show called Every Now and Then, and where they'll bring in like news streams or things like that, where everybody's watching it together, and then they come back and have commentary on it. And that works really well, because you're still having a shared experience together. And I think that's the beauty of live, is that it's a shared experience,
Love that. And the other thing you have to realize with all of this, and this is why I said use this stuff sparingly, pre-recorded video, pre-recorded live streams, for example, a lot of people try to use that whole set it and forget it model. And what that does, and Jessica, I know like you're all about building relationships. And if you're just putting out a pre-recorded live stream just to check that box, you're missing out on the relationship that you would potentially get with that viewer, that interaction that they can have with you on the live stream. Because that's a lot of the times the reason why people tune into a live stream. They want to actually be able to talk to Jessica. They want to talk to Mike, So
exactly. And like NH Chance 60s, that's commenting right now. No, we are live. Hello. Giving you a shout out right now. And that's the beauty of it that he was just mentioning, is that we can interact with you in real time as you're asking questions. So no, we are not pre-recorded right now. As well as Eddie, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in a little bit if you come back.
Very cool. So yes. So let's see, we talked tutorials. What else did you want to know, or where'd you want to go?
Yeah, no, I think you hit on it too, is like the beauty of, people showing up and wanting to show up and stay consistent, not being discouraged on how many people are tuning in live at the very beginning, especially when you get started. But I think you mentioned at the very beginning, the most important thing is checking your analytics and seeing, because not everything is just, powerful in the live moment, but what it has after that. So people watching the replay and all of that. But I think there comes a point of maximizing what you're doing, and you are great at this. So maybe speak to how you can really expand your content's reach by repurposing and what that's.
Yeah.
Repurposing, I got to say, I always give the example of like squeezing juice, because basically you want to get the most juice out of a piece of content, a single piece of content. And here's what a lot of people do. They create content. And by the way, let's talk about Mark's comment here in a second, by the way. So, we talk about making a piece of content. And then what a lot of people do is they say, okay, I'm finished. They check the box and they moved on to the following week or the following live stream. And the thing is, there's so much that you can extract from that one piece of content. For example, what we're doing right now, we're not finished. When this live stream's finished, what we need to do is we need to take it. We need to, and there's programs that can help you with this. I don't know what you recommend, but you can use like,
I recommend hiring a Julia that's doing it right now in real time.
So you can do that. You can use lately.ai. I think it's lately.ai, where it's like an automated feature where you drop the video and it'll spit out a whole bunch of clips. And then you basically just review it and then pull out the ones that will work for you. But you basically take those magic moments that you learn during a live stream, and it doesn't have to be a lot, but you pull them out, and then now you have social content. And that goes into, a bucket that you've created. For example, it could be, you could call it magic moments even, and just drop those in to a scheduling tool, maybe like an Agora Pulse, or I think that's the one you use. Is that the one you use, Jessica?
Yeah. Yes.
So drop it into there, and they have a queuing feature where it can automatically pull each of those little clips that you've had from a live stream. And now you have months on months on months of social content, provided it's obviously evergreen and still relevant. So that would be one angle to take. The other thing also
the beauty of it, right? So like right now, just to give everybody kind of behind the curtain, behind the scenes. And by the way, in the blog post I put above, and Julia, maybe you can grab it and put the link in there to the live show flow in the comments again. But it gives you our formula and what we literally do for each show, before, during, after. But we schedule out the show, of course, we make some content around that. And then after the show happens and during the show happening, we'll take some notes and write the blog post kind of as it's happening or right after. And then grab some of those, like you said, magic moments from it. So tweetables, things that you're saying, right? Like check the analytics, whatever, and making it stupid simple for people to be able to tweet that that comment out to then share the article. So they're curating content, whoever's reading the content. Then we also take moments from the show, video clips, so we can use that in stories and Facebook posts, things like that, little clips there. And then several different intros or nuggets of information from the blog post to repurpose it. And then we're tagging you, we're tagging Mike, whomever was mentioned in it. And that way it's getting activated from there. So it's not just us kind of pushing content out. Again, it's featuring someone else, getting it activated. And that way it has a larger, reach and longer life expectancy from it.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. I do the same thing for my show. I take the live stream, I turn it into a blog post, I embed the video, and then you can take that a step further and you can do, if you're into Alexa flash briefings, you want to reach a customer on that, you can have an Alexa flash briefing. Literally it's, a 1-minute audio, for example, that could quickly summarize something, and that goes up on Alexa. And then Alexa, they have what's called an RSS feed where it goes and checks a folder and it pulls it back. And if it's there, it puts it up on an Alexa device. In addition to that, you also have, you can take this live stream if you wanted to, and it's a little more complex, but you can turn it into a podcast. So then that way you have an audio podcast. So if you're like, hey, I want to start a podcast, super easy. Take your live streams, simply just download the video, extract the audio. It's literally like, hey, just give me the audio from the video. And there you go.
Yes.
Put that, add your intro, add your outro, put it up on your podcast platform. Now you have, and it helps with distribution across like iTunes and Spotify and all that sort of stuff as well. So now you're not just taking that one live stream, but, and saying, hey, I'm done with it. You now have a blog post. You've got a flash briefing, a podcast, social, magic moments for your social channels. What else am I forgetting there, Jessica?
No, I think you hit on all of them. So the blog post, the social post, the video snippets for stories, things like that.
Yes.
The podcast, and then, expanding its reach on syndication channels. So that's another thing that we do, like syndicate it, like you were just saying with Alexa.
Yeah.
Also, like LinkedIn has some, and there's other channels out there that will just repurpose, where you're not going to get penalized for duplicate content, but you're syndicating it. So it helps expand the reach that way.
And you could even take this right now, if you're using like a Rodecaster Pro, an audio interface, you can push it out to Twitter Spaces or Clubhouse if that's your place as well. So an audio, you basically are taking this audio from the video and it's literally streaming it out to, like, say, Twitter Spaces. So if you have a following on Twitter, it's a great place for people to go and listen. Again, you're not taking it and like, oh, I got to create like 100 different things. You're being smart with how you're creating it. So you can constantly, like, you can just squeeze a lot more juice from that piece of fruit, basically your live stream that you've made.
Beautiful. I don't think anybody should be able to go away from here saying, yeah, doing all those already. I mean, with that list right there, people have gotten nuggets, beyond belief here today. So that's awesome.
For sure. And I love that you said that you don't have to do all of them, but like starting from the very beginning of what you said, your why or for what purpose, like knowing your community, what you're doing the show for, who it's for, right? And then when you're deciding to create it, now you can see, where am I going to maximize the reach for that and for the community that I'm creating it for. By the way, I love that Julia's all gassed up right now for doing this. And hello, Lisa. She says hello earlier, and she said the possibilities are endless, and you are absolutely right.
And here's the thing. This is the other thing of, like, how people always try to take that approach of like, just throw it to the wall and see what sticks. This is one of those times where it is good to throw it against the wall and see what sticks. Because, for example, if you had, you wanted to record a live stream and turn it into a podcast, and you're like, well, okay, let me test Twitter Spaces at the same time. I'm doing all of this at the same time. And then I can, I run it for a month, and then I can look at my numbers and I can say, hey, you know what? I'm not getting as much value out of Twitter Spaces, or maybe I'm getting value out of Twitter Spaces and I tried Clubhouse instead. Look at the numbers and look at what's working, and then decide, hey, you know what? Oh, I'm not going to do that. I don't have to, then I just turn it off. That's all. I don't have to, like, oh, let me try, this one thing, throw it against the wall and see if it sticks for a month. No, instead I'm taking multiple approaches at once to see what works, and then I can cut out what does or doesn't work. So
watching the analytics across different platforms.
Yeah.
I love that. Maybe you can speak to, and speaking of testing things out, we tested for a while and found out like 30 minutes is our max, right? Like that, it just works better that way for us. So, and it's hard to believe we've already been talking for 25. So, again, no, it's all good stuff. That time flies by when you're learning, right? So it's been great. By the way, type the word recap if you do want a recap of this, so you get all the nuggets that Christian is sharing, and the live show flow we can include in there as well of what we do at Now Marketing Group. And I'm sure Christian has some resources with StreamYard. And that's what I want to ask you. One is like, if people are ready to get started, now you've convinced them, like they're going to start live streaming for their brand, okay, where would you send them first to get started with StreamYard or wherever?
So I don't know if you have a link. I don't know if you have a link for StreamYard. Okay, so I'd say use Jessica's link that she's going to share. Oh,
go ahead, so, you're good. We'll share one, but it doesn't have to be my affiliate link.
Okay, cool. So, well, if you want to just start with StreamYard, you can just go to StreamYard.com. You can sign up for free, or you can use. I'd recommend using Jessica's link because, again, if you're interested in that, but go to StreamYard.com.
And we know it's coming from this show.
Yeah, exactly. That actually, but again, that's numbers. That tells you, hey, you know what? That's actually working. So I'd say first, sign up for free. It's not going to cost you anything. Sign up for free, test it out. And then here's the thing, you can level up based off of what you're looking to do. So if you're looking to get into podcasting, for example, and you already know, like if you've never live streamed, start using StreamYard, for example. If you've never live streamed, get used to it. And then you can build upon that and say, hey, you know what? I want to turn this into a podcast. And what my personal recommendation is I do my live streams and then I always save them to a hard drive. And I do that so that when I'm like, say I don't have a podcast, but I'm like, hey, I want to start doing one at some point, I at least have a backup of the video so I can extract the audio and start doing that process versus, hey, I'm missing like 50 episodes because I decided to start like 6 months later. So I'd say start there in terms of getting started with all that. There is, we do have a fantastic blog. Well, I say fantastic because I manage it, but there's StreamYard.com/blog. If you're interested in like camera equipment, microphones, the stuff you need to get started. I will tell you this, you don't need all of the fancy gear to get started. You don't need the DSLR camera, the microphone, or the interface I'm using right now. You don't need any of that. You can start with your webcam. You can start with, audio is the most important part, by the way, of live streaming. So that would be my first investment. And then, make sure, again, you're using a good laptop, and that's really all you need to get started. And then you can always upgrade the camera. You can use your smartphone, for example, as well, if you want to do that. They have fantastic cameras as well, so you don't have to actually go buy additional equipment. So you've got a lot of that'd probably be where I think I'd start. And then in terms of getting going, once you've actually, once you have the basic software you need and the basic equipment, then I would say, you need to look at and I like your show flow example you have there, Jessica, but I'd say just look at well, what are you going to live stream about? And I'll tell you this, if you want to reach out to me, you're totally welcome to private message me or whatever. I'm more than happy to talk with you and help get you on the right track of what direction do I need to go with a live stream? Because like Jessica said, I've been doing this for quite a long time, back in the Google Hangouts days. So
that's right. Blab. Back in the Blab.
Actually pre-Blab. Actually, I was pre-Blab.
Yeah, it was.
And so, you need, but the key thing is it's starting and then being willing to make those adjustments as you're moving along. And some people are going to move along faster. Some people are going to, take bigger jumps, but it's getting started and then taking the time to say, hey, you know what? Okay. Like you mentioned, Jessica, your show is 30 minutes. If you start out for your first stream might be 2 hours, maybe even longer than that probably. And you need to look at it and say, okay, well, it was 2 hours long. Oh, there was no one watching, or everybody dropped off, 30 minutes in. Well, that tells me I need to pull back on the numbers. Maybe you don't have to go from 2 minutes to 30 minutes at one, or 2 hours to 30 minutes. Maybe it goes from 2 hours to 1 hour. And then you work to really, get it very concentrated down to the point where, hey, it's 1 hour. Okay, now what else can we trim from this? How can we get this to be this lean machine that we can leverage in our business? So that's where I think I'd get started.
Such good info. And honestly, we've had the opposite with some of the other shows that we've done where it was too short. So yeah, definitely love your advice to play around with it. And I know StreamYard has a fantastic Facebook group community where, people are giving each other feedback, and I'm sure there's other ones that are out there, but solicit some friends to give you some feedback, honest friends.
Yeah.
Honest friends. They'll give you feedback and not just give you fluff. Right.
That's an excellent point. Yes. I love that. Make sure, don't just let people tell you, yeah, I know, do this. Get different pieces of advice from people. And then you need to make the decision, based on what benefits you the most. in terms of like what direction you go with things, but also be open to feedback. That's like huge. So don't just, hey, somebody told me to do this. Oh, I'm going to do it. Or, oh, I'm going to be so stubborn in my ways. For example, like, oh, I need to move the time of my live stream because it's not convenient for me. It's about your viewers. So, it's about like being like, you don't have to bend for everyone, but, take into account like your viewers. It's not about like, oh, well, I'm the one that's doing this live stream. It's about what your viewers want and, trying to meet their needs. But just remember, you can't meet everyone's needs as well. So you want to make sure that, you're doing enough, again, because you're serving your audience. It's all about serving your audience.
Yeah. And that goes back to the for what purpose at the very beginning. Because if you go back to that, you can ask yourself, am I hitting that? Am I hitting that? And if you can answer yes, and you're creating content for the right people and you're answering that you're serving your purpose, that's all you need to know, right? Like, but pivot, adjust, of course, be open to feedback. Love all these tips. You guys seriously type the word recap. You will be invited to get this recap of the show, all the tips that Christian shared and links that we were talking about into your inbox. 30 minutes goes by way too fast. Christian, we'd love to have you back at some point because you are a wealth of information. I would love to unpack some of the things that you've done to make your show successful with social chatter, because it's been the longest running, live show on social media, and for good reason. So love to share that, and we'll have you back for sure. I know Julia's booking for summer, so she'll be reaching out, I'm sure, with that. But thank you for being on today.
Thank you.
And thank all of you for tuning in.
Thank you.
Yeah. And hopefully we'll see you, Mike. I know we'll see you in June at Social Media Week in Lima, 15th and 16th. If there's still time to get tickets, everyone, at sociallima.com. We'll be talking even more about this and just other ways of connecting with your community. But until then, we'll see you next week at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I hope all of you have a great rest of your week. Play around, go live, test it out, and join us back next week and let us know how it goes. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in this week.
Thank you. See you guys.
Bye, guys.